Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel about Dungeons and Dragons where we try and take a darker tone with everything we do here. So if you like edgy kind of content, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. What you do is absolutely amazing. If you're interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, the link is in the description. With all that out of the way, we're jumping into our first coverage about the D&D 2024 Player's Handbook, and we're going to start out with a couple of changes I think are really interesting, and we're going to jump off with backgrounds. So they obviously changed backgrounds a little bit from the previous versions, and I did a short about this over the summer, and personally I think a lot is kind of really skewed with how they do backgrounds and how it previously was. So in the previous backgrounds, you really had a couple of different options depending on, like, obviously what you wanted to be, and a variety of different other circumstances. You know, like it gave you personality ideas, bonds, flaws, and things like that. And now that's really missing, and I really miss that. I liked the different backgrounds to help kind of tie me to different settings and show, like, I'm a character of this world. These are some of the things that involve that kind of life, and from there I became an adventurer. It's a great hook. I think it's a great way to tie yourself in, especially considering there's a bunch of setting specific ones, which I thought were really cool to help you change out of the normal setting of D&D and jump into some of the cool, like the individual settings that are specific to the campaigns you're in. But now you kind of lose that, and everything is kind of just like your background is a little bit more broad in that kind of a sense. I'll give you the example of the charlatan, which was, one of my favorite ones, obviously. So it just gives you a little bit of flavor text. It says, once you were old enough to order an ale, you soon had a favorite stool in every tavern within 10 miles where you were born. As you traveled the circuit from public house to watering hole, you learned to prey on unfortunates who were in the market for a comforting lie or two, perhaps a sham potion, or forge ancestry records. Now, being a charlatan is, you're someone who's like a grifter. You're someone who tries to pull a fast one and kind of swindle people out of their money. Like, that's pretty, like, if you know anything about fantasy, you can kind of see a lot of those tropes pop up from time to time, and it's unique because previously it gave you ideas as to what kind of things you did, like what was your go-to sell, or your way to kind of grift some coin out of some people, or however it was that you'd made that kind of an impact in the society around you. And now that's kind of just gone. All you have is that flavor text, and then just like a little bit of the information of what you get. And that, I think, is kind of like, that's a little bit heartbreaking for me, because again, I'm more of a roleplay oriented person, so that's something that really, like, I love those things that tie me to a story. I love having my character be, like, dynamically involved in the world around them. And I think that really did a good idea of helping someone, especially if you were newer, connect yourself to the way the world is and understand, give yourselves a little bit of quirks and things like that. I get, for someone more experienced, maybe you want more broad strokes, you want to be outside of those certain things of your character, and you don't want to be limited to like 8 choices in each field. And I can respect that. But I think flaws is something that really helps make a character great. And I think having a couple of options to help you kind of really pull your character together do a great service to you. But that's now removed, and you have that flavor text, and now what you get is a little bit different, because your ability scores are tied to your background. Each background has their own ability scores to choose from. So for the charlatan, you can choose between dexterity, constitution, and charisma. You could put 1s in each. You can put 2 in one and 1 in the other, and forget 1. That's up to you. Which it kind of falls in line a lot with like Tasha's rules, and like I think that kind of like, I don't really like it necessarily. I think it works better for the species or the race as opposed to the background, but I can see how it comes from the background, because these are like things that you do inherently. Like sleight of hand would definitely be something a charlatan's good at, and sleight of hand is dexterity. Charisma is used for lying. Like, I absolutely get that. Constitution, you've pretty sure you've been caught and beat up a few times. That kind of makes sense to me. You do get a tool proficiency with the forgery kit, which is something that you kind of get normally with the background of tool proficiency. You get equipment to choose from. You can choose a forgery kit, costume, and fine clothes, or just 50 gold points. I'm sorry, with the forgery kit, costume, fine clothes, you also get 15 GP, which kind of balances out basically to the same. But if you wanted to have something else, that's kind of what the option is for, and I think it works. Your skill proficiencies are deception and sleight of hand. Again, very, very telling. Again, this was in the background previously. Now, here's where things kind of get a little unusual for me personally. Each background gets what's called an original feat. So for the charlatan, you get skilled, and it's an interesting feat. It depends on the kind of character you're building, how these are kind of going to work. It's one of the things that really kind of puts me in a strange place. And I covered this in the short, and I got a lot of negative feedback for it, which I respect, and I appreciate everyone who did say something. Your origin feats are listed as like a couple of these, and whatever background you choose, they get one of these origin feats. It's alert, crafter, healer, lucky, magic initiate, musician, savage attacker, skilled, tavern brawler, and tough. Now, obviously, savage attacker, tough, magic initiate, lucky are like those are probably more oftenly picked as opposed to some of these others. I think it does kind of narrow your options because you're kind of going to be gunning for that feat as opposed to necessarily any of the other background reasons for it. It seems like limited in that kind of sense because some of these are too good to have. I mean, if you're going to build a tanky character, picking up tough is a very good thing to have because you can pad that extra HP. Lucky is awesome. It's just such a good feat and so viable on like all varieties. If you're like a crit fisher or like a melee gish kind of character or just a straight melee fighter, having savage attacker is huge for you. Because you can re-roll the weapon's damage dice once per turn. So if you roll low, you can bump that up every round. Like, these are feats for a reason. I personally, and I am not going to win a bunch of favoritism awards at the moment, but I don't necessarily appreciate this as a background. I mean, maybe tie it to the class because it's going to be tied to them anyway. It is just like a unique thing to kind of like navigate through. I know I've played a bunch of games and people have been playing with, you'll play level 1 and you'll start with a feat. And then people kind of go nuts and pick whatever feat they want, and it gets to be pretty intense. Now, I will mention, I do like the idea that some of these are feats you very rarely see, or at least not usually taken. Like the musician feat, I believe, is new. I like that. I think for a bard, that's kind of a necessity, which I hate things that are absolutely a necessity for you to take, but it kind of just coincides with the entertainment background anyway, so most likely you'll see that a lot. But like healer, crafter, alert, even skilled, like those things getting a little bit more active of a role in the game is something I do appreciate. I do think that some of these feats are just better than the others, and I hope they get a fair amount of play, to be honest. I gotta say though, in regards to the use of the older backgrounds, the 5e backgrounds, the rules that they give to you for it are pretty great. They give you the option to obviously put your ability scores where you see fit, and they give you an option to choose your own origin feat from the list of origin feats, which is, I think it's kind of better, oddly enough. I think it does give you more variety, and you're not always being the same farmer fighter your whole life. And even if you're a paladin farmer, or a barbarian farmer, I feel like you can step away from that and be a multitude of other things and still get that feat as well. And I think that works out better. Personally, I really appreciate that more. I think that puts a lot of the creativity back into the player's hands as far as building their character, even especially for min-maxers and people who are always looking to kind of get the most applicable of whatever stat or damage or ratio or whatever it is they're trying to build per level. I think that's better if you're using the previous backgrounds and just picking from there and then picking whatever origin feat. I think that works out better. I think that makes you more creative and broadens your availability of what kind of character you can be. I really think that's the better use. In most of the games I play, I'm going to kind of implement that as opposed to using the other ones. And then that way I can keep all my old school stuff that I really, really enjoy. One of the things that they really did like an awesome job of, and I'm really like glad they did this, is because they started breaking down when you're building your characters and generating your scores and things like that. They gave you this awesome thing about describe appearance and personality based on like what stats you have. And like you think about like, you know, it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm a barbarian, so I'm big and I'm like muscular, you know, like it's super easy to do that. But they give you some perspectives on what your strength looks like. If you have high strength, your appearance is very direct, you're protective, sinewy, which is a word that I don't know, or you're muscular. But if you have low strength, they give you weak, slight, self-conscious, and indirect. And if you want to go really in depth to like your character's like insecurities and emotional stances, like this really does give you a great opportunity to kind of incorporate that and develop, almost like really fully bring your character into like that theater of the mind appearance. You know, I think it's so cool of an idea. Like if you have high constitution, one of the things I suggest you roll for this, you roll a d4 between all of these. It's energetic, hale, hardy, stable. And if you have low constitution, you're frail, squeamish, lethargic, fragile. And it never occurred to me the lower stats affecting how my character looked or acted. And the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. And like I love that. I really think it's so cool. And like when you get into like the wisdom, charisma, and stuff like that, like it makes so much sense, and it never computed before. So that's something I really, really enjoyed about finding out that it existed. Like it's just cool. Like I think it's so great for defining your character and really drawing out a bigger impact. Because if I was a low wisdom person, being rash, distracted, oblivious, and naive make a lot of sense, but I don't necessarily always incorporate that into a character that's low wisdom. I kind of just leave it as just like it's not a factor. And if I wanted to go in depth with the character, this is a great window to open that up, you know, and to kind of like really give your character a sort of like new sense to it. And this is great for like if you're new to role playing and you really wanted to be like a druid. Like I want to be a druid and I want to seem like I'm, you know, like I'm wise. So being serene, considerate, attentive, and wary are things that they give you for options for having high wisdom. And it makes sense, and incorporating those ideas would absolutely feel right at home with someone with high wisdom, like a druid or like a monk or something like that. I think it's awesome. It's definitely one of the things that I wasn't expecting to seeing that I really, really enjoyed. But as far as backgrounds are concerned as a whole, I think using the newer adaptation of the older rule is the better way to go personally. I think that gives you all the creativity that you want and still giving you the ability to pick and choose these like origin feats and not being kind of like pigeonholed into being this exact character for all of your characters that play. All of your charisma casters are all charlatans, like all your dexterity characters are all guards or escorts or whatever it is. So you can have that great viability and still get that great origin feat that, like, you know, helps your character. I think that's a better way personally, and I really thoroughly enjoyed that. If you've made it this far into the video, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. Give me a comment. I want to hear what you guys think about backgrounds and how it's going forward, whether you agree with me or not, and especially if you don't, because I love seeing that opposing opinion and understanding what things I might be missing, or what things incorporate this to make you think, yes, this is great. I definitely want to hear that. I love talking to you guys about character concepts, so please let me know what you're thinking. A little bit of a heads up on what's going to go on. I'm going to do a couple of things about some of the maybe like tools or whatever it is, or some of those things like that in regards to 2024 as they've changed, if I find them interesting enough or worthy of doing a video. But I'm going to do a class breakdown and kind of go through each individual class. After that, I'm going to start mitigating in some lore videos and getting more into that kind of information. And if I come up with some other concepts or some other things you might want to hear or suggest, definitely let me know. Happy to take it into consideration. Love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting us. It's been awesome, and we hope to continue this, keep going as long as possible. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. A big part of keeping us motivated and keeping us moving forward is what you guys contribute. It's a great help to the channel, and thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.